Hi there, Serial Trader here. I'm going to do an update on Bitcoin as there's certainly been a significant change in the market since my last video on it. Okay, now in the last video I was working this overall correction we've been in from the June 26 high there as potentially a sideways contracting triangle. And that obviously, I mentioned in the last video that wasn't necessarily going to pan out, but it offered a decent risk reward scenario. So I did get stopped out at 9,300 on that trade I had on it. But now that we've dumped here, I've already I've already started buying back in at lower prices in the low to mid 8,000s here. And of course I still have the core position as usual. But some of my earlier videos before I started leaning on that triangle interpretation, I was looking at potentially a double three where you have a WXY, and that would have called for going to lower lows below what we went to here in July, and that was 9,084 here on Bitfinex, so around the 9,000 level. And it seems that my original inclination or interpretation actually proved to be the correct one. But Bitcoin often has a way of kind of shaking you off the right interpretation, only to eventually prove that it was the correct one. But that doesn't really matter here. So this is actually a very nice gift for anyone that wants to get long here in a big way on Bitcoin. And this is really the time to be loading up for this proposed large degree third wave that we're going to embark on once we find a low if we haven't done so already. So just to review, and this also clears up the overall wave count. So for the longest time, it was a question of, well, do we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up? And is this, for an overall wave 1? And are we just doing this wave 2 retracement, which obviously is very bullish, setting up for that wave 3? Or the question was also, well, or do we have 1, 2, and this is all an extended 3, and then we're just doing this wave 4, then we'll have a wave 5 for an overall 1, and then come down, for this 2. So this actually kind of accelerates the more bullish stance, being that, okay, we've corrected long enough and gone low enough in price, percentage-wise, that this can confidently be labeled a wave 2, and we're setting up for this large degree wave 3. So it's actually better, in my opinion, that this happened this way. At least better in the sense that, okay, we're going to get on with, big impulse wave to the upside sooner. So that being said, we got our 1, 2, 3. We have a triangle 4, thrust up in 5. That was our wave 1 peak. That's now, definitive now that we've done this deeper correction. And again, we have good alternation between wave 2 and wave 4. So wave 2 was considered a sharp correction. Wave 4 was considered sideways. So that's good alternation. You like to see an alternation between a wave 2 and a wave 4 as far as one having a different characteristic than the other, and they certainly had that. So very nice Elliott wave features there. Obviously subdivides nicely into 5 waves, and all the subwaves for each impulse wave are certainly there if you look at smaller time frames. Now let's focus on this current juncture we're at. So I've done just the overall retracement from the December low to the June high. And we basically had some reaction here off the 50% retracement level. And that was, let's call it approximately 8,500. Obviously, we stabbed briefly below that, but seem to be kind of hovering around that now. So that's potential reversal area. It's also the median line of this corrective channel. And that's also a nice potential area to reverse from when you're in one of these corrective channels. And, okay, after that we have WY equality projected off the X-wave termination point. That would get us a little lower if we do go lower at 76.45. And then, of course, the 618 retracement will be around 72.44. And also, there's something called the guideline for the depth of corrective waves. So after you've had an impulse sequence and you're correcting that impulse sequence, a tendency is often to correct into the span of travel of the previous 4th wave of 1 lower degree, which is obviously, this this range right here, previous fourth wave of one lower degree, and you often end near the termination point of that previous fourth wave of one lower degree. So the termination point of this case, in this case, was A, B, C, D, E. So the E wave of this triangle, wave 4, terminated at 74.97, so around 7,500. So that lines up fairly closely with WY equality, just as far as a cluster of relationships goes. And obviously you have the 786 retracement way down here. I don't think that that's going to come into play. That seems too deep, given all this nice market structure we have here. So we're definitely in the zone. Maybe it's bottomed. Maybe it still has, you know, another several $100 below the low here to go. So what did we bottom at? We bottomed at 8,100. So there might be still, you know, another $500-600 to go if we go and retest those lows and break them. But we're in the zone here where it's extremely attractive to be buying, set up for this large degree impulse wave up in wave 3. So that's what I've been doing. You don't have to buy it all at once. You can buy some now, buy some tomorrow, buy some the next day. Split it up into 3s or 4s or 5s, whatever you want to do. Because the chance of you buying the exact right point is low, but we're in the zone where buying is attractive. Okay, so another thing I want to point out here. So I've pointed out some nice price relationships that we're now you know, hitting, and they're coming into play. The daily RSI is deeply into oversold territory, and we also have the highest volume we've seen in well, let's see, dating back to, if I can find a volume bar to rival this one, that brings us to July. So this is the highest volume we've seen in a couple months, and certainly based on past, you know, Bitcoin observations, you often have a nasty move down, very high volume, relatively high volume, and that kind of marks your turning point. So if I was going to scroll back here, and I will, if we go back to the 2017 bull market, I'll just point some things out here. So here was kind of a similar situation. We made a peak at 3,003, made a low at around 1,800, 1,826 on this chart. And that's another thing. So as far as percentage retracement, this was roughly a 40% decline. And the current one we've been in is also roughly a 40% decline, plus or minus. But if you look at this, got briefly oversold on the daily RSI. Not as oversold as we are today, actually. It just hit 30 and then reversed swiftly. And you can see big volume came in, nice big volume bar after doing that. So 40% decline in an overall bullish market, oversold daily RSI, big volume, and then we resumed higher. Another example was here. We went to almost 5,000, so 49.70, corrected down to 29.80, so roughly 3,000. So again, another roughly 40% decline. Daily RSI got briefly into that oversold territory, and then we had big volume coming in, and that was the bottom. So these bottoms, they didn't take very long in these two instances. So we'll see if that kind of plays out the same way this time, where you have that quick and nasty bottom, and then you just start trending back up again. So those are the two examples I kind of wanted to point out from 2017, particularly this one, because it actually has a very similar look. Okay. So if we go back to current times here, so from that 13,764 high to so far 8,100 low, again roughly a 40% decline. Daily RSI oversold, big volume coming in now. So it certainly looks very nice to form a bottom here pretty soon. Another thing I want to point out is also, okay, so another relationship that's come into play is the 200-day simple moving average. So this is just a plain BTC chart. Again, Bitfinex, this is the 50-day, 100-day, and here's the 200-day simple moving average. So you can see we've had a nice reaction so far off this 200-day simple moving average, which is currently sitting around 8,300, 8,333. So in the low low 8,000s, we have this 200-day moving average. So that's another thing that some people may not be looking at as well with Bitcoin, but I think it's certainly worth looking at along with everything else. So everything's coming into play. We're into a kind of a cluster of support, 200-day moving average, as well as all these other relationships I pointed out. Oversold daily RSI. And of course, nice volume coming in. That's really something it's good to see, is big volume coming in. That tells you a lot of positions are changing hands, a lot of panic selling from weekends, and then strategic buying from smarter money, if you will. So this is probably a very significant turning point. Also, we're coming towards the end of the month of September, so we started the correction towards the end of the month in June. So we're almost a nice round 3 months into this correction. So also, I believe the end of September will mark the end of the third quarter, because then the fourth quarter begins October, November, December. So it'll be the end of the month, end of a quarter. Everything's looking nice and mature here to be done. So it looks like Bitcoin and perhaps some other cryptos as well could be setting up for a very bullish fourth quarter. So that's my take on it. I'm certainly aggressively building positions here currently, and certainly be looking to add even more if we could dig a little deeper, but definitely already aggressively building positions at these current levels. We'll see how Bitcoin plays out the rest of this week, and certainly going into next week and next month. I think this is a pretty damn nice setup, though, shaping up here. All right, that's good for now. Serial Trader signing off.